Okay, so let's continue. Once again, in the previous video, we saw that if a number ends with these 4 digits, right? 2, 3, 7 and 8, then it cannot be a perfect square at all. If the other digits are there, then it could be a perfect square. But if it's 2, 3, 7, 8, then it's definitely not a perfect square. Okay. Now, the next thing. We also saw in the previous video that if you have this digit, let's say 4, then no matter how big the number is, if the units digit is 4, the answer will always end in 6. Right? So which means using this using this table only, we can say that if you have a square number over here and you have the root of it, okay, you have a square number and you have its square root. So if the square number ends with 1, right, no matter what the number is in front of it, if it ends in 1, okay, what will be the square root? The square root will be either the square root will also end in 1 or the square root will end in 9. And how do we know this? Because 9 into 9 or 9 square is 81 and 1 square is 1, right? So if it's ending with 9 and 1, then the square would be ending in 1. Let's look at more examples of these, right? So if you have your square number is ending with 4, okay, so your square root will end either in 2 or it will end in 8. So 2 into 2 is 4 and 8 into 8 is 64. Then if the units digit is 5, then it will be 5. Okay, the square root will have the ending 5. If your number ends in 6, then here 4 will come, right? Because 4 4 is 16. And you will also have 6. So the number will end in 4 or it will end in 6. Then we have 9. So if 9 is there, you'll have either the number will end in 3 or it will end in 7. Okay. And finally, we have 0. So if it's ending in 0, your square root will also end in 0. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Did we miss anything? 8, 9 and 10. Yeah. Okay. So how do you actually remember this? You don't need to remember this. All you need to know is that you have this over here. Okay. You just need to remember that what is 1 square till 10 square. And then when you have a question, like let's say this question over here. Okay. This question asks, which of the following numbers have the digit 6 in their units place? So if it's 38 square, this is 8. What is 8 square? 64. So does 64 have 6 in the units digit? No, it doesn't. Then, so this is no, right? Then 34. What is 4 square? 16. So that will be having 6 in the digits, units digit, right? So then that's a yes. 6, again 46 will be 6 square. So that will be a yes. This will be a yes. This will be a yes. This will be a no because it has 2 and then 2 square becomes 4. So you just need to know the first 10 squares. All right. Let's look at another property. When you take a square of the number 10, 10 into 10, that becomes 100. Which means the 1 0 converts into 2 zeros. Okay, 10 square is 100, 20 square is 400, 40 square is 800. If I make it again let's say 50 square. This will become 2500. So how do you actually do it? You take this, double the number of that, and this one you will take its square root, its square, and you will put it here. Okay, so let's say it's 60 square. So you will put 2 zeros, and 6 into 6 is 36. Okay, what happens if there are 2 zeros over here? So let's say 100 square. Now again you will take this and you will double it. So this will become 10,000, which means you have doubled the zeros. And same thing now, just like that, if let's say it is 500, this will be, again you'll double the zeros and you will multiply 5 by itself. So that's 25. Okay, so that is how much? 2,50,000. So basically this property just says that the number of zeros that you have in a number, its square will have double that amount. Okay, which also then means the next thing is that any perfect square cannot have an odd number of zeros. Why? Because if you have 1 zero at the end, the square will have 2 zeros. If you have 2 zeros, the square will have 4 zeros. And if you have 3 zeros, the square will have 6 zeros. So no matter what happens, if it is a perfect square, it will always have even number of zeros at the end. Now again, this does not mean that if it has 2 zeros, that it's a perfect square. 100 is a perfect square, but 200 is not a perfect square, right? So this is the same thing, the same way of looking at it like we did over here. If it has an odd number of zeros, right? A number, if it has an odd number of zeros, so let's say it is 2000. Okay, you can say that this is 3 zeros and therefore it is not a perfect square. It's not a perfect square. But if it is an even number of squares, even number of zeros over here, then the same way that we did previously, this could be a perfect square. It's not, we know that it is not, but the possibility is there just because of the even number of zeros. So basically, if you have, like, let's say you have a multiple choice question and you have 4 different options and you have to select which ones are definitely not, then you know that as soon as it has an odd number of zeros, it's definitely not a perfect square. Okay, the last property that we'll study right now is the parity of the number and its square. What is parity? Parity just means that whether it's odd or even. So this is just, we'll just look at this. Okay, when you have an even number, the square is even. When you have an odd number, the square is odd. Even is even, odd is odd. Even is even, odd is odd. So this is just simple, that if you have a perfect square which is odd, then its square root is odd. Or the other way around, when you have a number which is odd, the square of it will also be odd. If it's even, then it will be even. So the parity does not change. If it's odd, it stays odd, and if it's even, it stays even. Okay, so this was the properties. In the next video, we'll start with the perfect square and odd number, which is on page number 5. And yeah, take care. See you in the next video.